Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and the fact that it has now broken $36,000 with a global top or all-time high of 36,570 or so, according to this exchange. If you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also, check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, we are essentially at the point now where most people in the space, if you go around crypto YouTube, crypto Twitter, are exercising caution because a lot of people who have been around for a while, we've seen these types of moves before, and again, it's very euphoric and it can go up much longer than any of us can realistically imagine. But again, it's good to exercise caution, especially to new people entering the space, of course, right? Because a lot of us have been burned in the past, and we know how quickly things can change. With that said, it begs the question, right? How high can we go? How high can we theoretically go? Well, one interesting thing is if we take, say, like a bar pattern from this bottom to the top, and then assume that we overlay it here, right around that point at 9K, and let's switch this over to, say, the weekly time frame. And what we're going to do is we're going to put on our bull market support band. If we suppose that, say, this test here, the support band was our bottom, it would imply going all the way up to this level, which is around $40,000 to $41,000, which would be about twice our prior all-time high. Now, the bull market support band today ranges from approximately $17,000 up to $19,000. And the 20-week SMA should be breaking 20K in about a couple weeks at this rate. Now, one thing to keep in mind too, and really linear scales don't do Bitcoin justice when you're looking at long time frames, but in terms of trying to look at bubbles forming, I think they can be helpful. If you look at, say, linear time frames, let's hide the support band here, and we're just going to zoom out and get our, maybe our accumulation phase. Maybe this is the first sell-off, right? And then we get the institutional money coming in, and then we get into the media phase, right? Where you start to see it on the front pages of various news sites and magazines and that sort of stuff. And so it's going up quickly. The hard part, as basically everyone in crypto would agree, is we simply do not know how high it will go. And obviously, hindsight has a way of clearly elucidating things, and then you can use TA to say, okay, well, it makes sense that was the top. But when you're in a move like this, you really just don't know how high it will go. And of course, there's the obvious discussion around the money supply, because the money supply has been increasing, rather quickly since March. If we go take a look at the money supply really quick, you can see that this was our general trend line we were on, and we've quickly exceeded that. And in fact, we should not have reached this level of money supply until 2023 or so. So the money supply has gone up a lot since March. But with that said, of course, it makes us wonder, well, how high can this go before we really start to see a sustained correction? So far, the dips, as you guys have probably noticed, have been eaten up within a few seconds or a few minutes or a few hours. They don't take very long to be eaten up. And so Bitcoin continues its parabolic move. Now, some of the interesting things, of course, are key milestones from here. One would obviously be 40K. 40K would be twice the prior all-time high. I'm sure that would draw some headlines. The funny thing is that when you think about levels like 40K, it can seem like it's far off, but in fact, it's really not that far away. From the current price, Bitcoin would just need to go up another 10%, and it would be at 40K. To give you some perspective, the price of Bitcoin in the last week has appreciated 25%. So just to give you a little bit of perspective there, I would say if we are able to break 40K, then the next stop would be 50K, right? Not necessarily that if we break 40K, we have to go to 50K, because there's a chance we don't. But mentally, 50K would be something that would definitely be on everyone's minds, as it would be half of six figures. And a lot of people believe that Bitcoin will go to six figures during this market cycle, including myself. So if we're able to make it to 50K, now does that seem like a far-fetched number? Well, from where we currently are, it's a modest 37, 38% move. So it's not necessarily off the table that something like that could happen, okay? It's not off the table that something like that could happen. And as this move continues, I've seen more and more people, even the most bullish people out there, I've seen them start to exercise caution just because of what we've seen happen following moves like this. But again, one of the things to consider, as we've mentioned a few times as well, is maybe this move is similar to two cycles ago, like two market cycles ago, where we had a double peak, right? We had like a double peak like this or something like that. And maybe the current move we're in isn't even this peak. Maybe it's just something like this, right? From down here, we increased in value by about 231%. Before coming back down and then bottoming here and then going up another 2,000%. Now, I don't think we're going to go up 2,000%, but it's not that absurd to think that maybe we're not even in the double peak phase, right? We've even showed some things to imply that there's a decent chance we're not. But if we are going to form, like, say, a double peak, because I don't think a move like this where we're going up, 20 to 30% per week, that's not going to be sustainable for the entire year. So the question is, okay, where are we going to come back down to earth? Then where are we going to try to hold the line and then push higher again? So right now, it could be, right, that this is a first peak of the market cycle, just like two market cycles ago was, right? We had this two market cycles ago. The distance between, say, these two peaks was around 241 days. Now, that doesn't mean that would be that way this time, but just to give you some perspective, it was 241 days. Right now, the price of Bitcoin is still trending up. So, of course, the question remains, can it reach 50K in the short term? And, of course, the short answer is yes, it could. It would only need to go up less than 40% from where we currently are. And if it does, then it could be a very spectacular short-term top. Now, does that preclude it from from potentially going higher? No, it doesn't. And in the same way that people like to speculate on when was the last time Bitcoin you could buy it for less than $10,000, right? And most every time people are wrong. In the same way, we're always going to be calling for, okay, this is the peak, this is the peak, this is the peak, this is the peak. And eventually someone will be right, but we simply just do not know exactly where that peak will be. With that in mind, it's generally a good idea to make sure you're not betting the family farm, because moves like this are just simply not sustainable forever, right? They're just simply not sustainable forever. But as long as they are sustainable, it's a very fun ride to be on. So we'll see how high it goes, and when it does come back down, it doesn't mean the market cycle is necessarily over, right? It doesn't mean that. It could just mean that we need to regroup for a little bit, right? And then we just continue on. And then if we were to zoom out in time, right, it could be that even if this is a local top, like maybe between 40 to 50K, I don't really know. But even if it were, it could just be but a little blip on a much larger move that could happen later on that might take us up to over 100K or 150K or something, right? And then you look back at it, something like this, and we'll be like, oh yeah, like remember that little move we had back in December and January 2021. Look at how that pales, or this one makes this one pale in comparison, which makes the one before that pale in comparison as well. If you switch this over to a log scale, let's auto this out. So to give you an idea of what that might look like on a log scale, suppose that it went to, say, 50K in the short term or something, and then came back down for a little bit, and then we continued on. I don't know how long it would take, right? I mean, maybe we go up higher in the short term, then come and then keep going like that. We simply do not know. But hopefully there's enough tools out there for everyone. There's a lot of indicators these days that try to predict tops, and try to get us as close as possible. Obviously, no model is going to be 100% accurate, but I think some are useful, and we can use those as a general guide to helping predict where the next peak may be. If we overlay the regression band, the Bitcoin regression band, let's see where that has us. So in order for us to get to the top of the regression band, we would need to get to around 55,000. So it would imply us going over 50K. For us to get to this peak, or the top of this regression band, it would imply closer to an $80,000 Bitcoin, just north of an $80,000 Bitcoin, which an $80,000 Bitcoin from where we currently are, that's over another 100%, right? It's about 122% from where we currently are. So that would be a very impressive move if we were able to do that before having any systematic corrections that take us back down, test support for a few weeks or a few months, and then come back up. So hopefully this video is informative. One thing to keep an eye on is the dominance of Bitcoin. We peaked over here in short term at around 73.7%. We've come back down. This has given the chance for altcoins to rally, right? This means that altcoins have been moving up with respect to Bitcoin. So far, it seems like we've kind of put in a double bottom in this region, right? So we'll keep an eye on that and see if are we going to head back up as Bitcoin rallies on to 40 to 50K, or is Bitcoin going to cool off again at around maybe 36 to 37K, and we're going to see altcoins surge yet again, and then maybe the dominance will even come down. So if you guys like the content, subscribe to the channel. Let's go for 85,000 subscribers. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content. Remember, we do have the premium list. You can find that at intothecryptoverse.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.